Spring training is supposed to be the quiet part of the baseball calendar, the warm-up act, the part where you ease yourself back in, let the optimism wash over you like Florida sunshine, and convince yourself that this year, everything is going to be different. And then the Toronto Blue Jays happen, because it has been barely a week since pitchers and catchers reported, and we have already accumulated enough storylines to fill an entire broadcast season. Injuries, outfield logjams, rotation questions, and a Japanese slugger apparently redefining what it means to be manly in a Blue Jays uniform. Ladies and gentlemen, you are watching the Blue Jays Report, and we are very much back. Joining me today is someone who is not watching all of this unfold from a comfortable chair at home. Keegan is on the ground in Dunedin, living and breathing the spring training in real time, and frankly, I am not sure whether to congratulate him or offer my condolences. Keegan, as always, thank you for being here. And his read on things matters because context is everything at this time of year. He made a point that I think is genuinely underappreciated. Covering a team with real expectations in spring training is actually a strange exercise because the primary objective is almost aggressively boring. Don't get hurt, get out alive. See you in April. The drama, when it comes, arrives uninvited. And uninvited drama has arrived almost immediately in the form of the outfield picture, which is, depending on your tolerance for complexity, either excitingly deep or concerningly chaotic. The acquisition of Jesus Sanchez changed the conversation overnight. Suddenly, Nathan Lukes, a player who had quietly embedded himself into John Snyder's trust, found his future being questioned publicly. Mitch Bannon was among those suggesting Sanchez's arrival could spell the end of Lukes' time in Toronto. And look, I understand the instinct. On paper, the Blue Jays outfield reads like a roster manager's fever dream. Sanchez, Lukes, David Schneider, Miles Straw, George Springer, and the ghost of an Anthony Santander who may or may not materialize at some point in the summer. It is, by any reasonable definition, a logjam. But here's where Keegan offered something that I think reframes the whole conversation beautifully, and it is the kind of insight that only comes from having actually watched these teams up close over many years. He pointed to Miles Straw last season, a player who, at this exact point in spring training, was quietly grouped with the fringe guys and who went on to appear in 137 games. He pointed to Ernie Clement, a man who has become something of a cult figure in this organization precisely because of his almost supernatural ability to simply be ready whenever called upon. And he drew a direct line between Clement and Nathan Lukes, players who are trusted by the manager, who don't require a week of live at-bats to find themselves, who will step off the bench on a Tuesday night in September and give you the same composed professional performance they would on opening day. That is genuinely rare, and it is worth more in a long season than people tend to give it credit for. Jesus Sanchez, Keegan argues, and I agree, is a different kind of player entirely. He is what you might call a ceiling elevator. He's the kind of player you acquire not because your floor needs raising, but because your roof needs replacing. And that framing is important because it also clarifies his limitations. You would not necessarily want Sanchez sitting on the bench for 5 days and then asking him to produce in a crucial at-bat against a tough lefty. The variance in his profile means he needs rhythm, he needs reps, he needs to be playing. Against right-handed pitching, Sanchez alongside Addison Barger becomes an exciting left-heavy, power-oriented proposition that opposing pitchers will genuinely not enjoy facing. That is the vision. That is what the front office bought when they made this move. If you are finding this breakdown useful, and I hope you are, please do share the video with a fellow Jays fan. These conversations only grow when more people are part of them, and the Blue Jays Report is built on exactly this kind of depth. The comparison Keegan reached for with describing Sanchez felt right the moment he said it. Teoscar Hernandez, a flawed, electric, sometimes infuriating player who nonetheless had the capacity to single-handedly alter the temperature of a game when he was locked in. Sanchez carries that same quality of explosive potential wrapped inside genuine inconsistency. And critically, even if he disappoints, even if the ceiling never materializes, the floor of this outfield remains functional. The depth is real. What was missing was someone capable of being great on a given night. Not all-star great, not MVP great, but game-changing great. Sanchez can be that. The risk is worth taking. Now, pivoting to the rotation, because this is where the real complexity of this Toronto Blue Jays roster reveals itself most nakedly. Dylan Cease, Keegan believes, is going to be the ace, and having watched his trajectory, having seen the reports of a developing changeup being added to an already dangerous arsenal, I find it very difficult to argue. Kevin Gausman, in what may be his final season in Toronto, brings the kind of quiet reliability that you only truly appreciate when it is gone. Jose Berríos, whatever the noise around him from last autumn, remains one of the most consistently professional starting pitchers of the past decade. And then there's Cody Ponzio, a big, innings-built frame arriving from Korea with 180 innings of recent work behind him, bringing strikeouts and upside in equal measure. But it would be dishonest not to acknowledge what Keegan pointed saying plainly and what every Blue Jays fan probably feels quietly in the back of their mind. Shane Bieber is not going to be ready for opening day, and while the current language around his forearm is reassuringly calm, fatigue, managed workload, all perfectly planned, Keegan's words carried appropriate weight when he noted that there is no such thing as truly comfortable news when the word forearm is involved. The ghost of Alek Manoah's trajectory from workhorse to cautionary tale lingers in this institutional memory. They will be careful. They should be careful. And if Bieber comes back within 5 or 6 weeks and everything holds together, this rotation has the genuine potential to be one of the better units in the American League. That is not hyperbole. That is an honest assessment. The name Max Scherzer has reportedly re-entered the periphery of the Blue Jays' thinking, and Keegan's response to that was, frankly, the most accurate thing said about it. The man pitched for this team last year. Of course he's on their radar. That's barely news. What it does represent, however, is an organization that is not sitting still, that understands one injury away from genuine rotation stress is not a comfortable place to be, and having a phone number you can dial in May or June if things deteriorate is simply smart management. It is not panic, it is preparation. And all of this, points to something that feels increasingly clear about this 2026 Toronto Blue Jays team. This is not a team held together with hope and sentiment the way some recent additions have been. This is a team with real depth, real options, real upside in several critical areas, and a front office willing to keep moving, keep adding, keep searching for the ceiling elevator rather than the comfortable floor. Keegan said something near the end of our conversation that deserves to be the final thought here. Great teams do not simply run it back. Between 1992 and 1993, the Blue Jays flipped half their roster, kept searching, kept building. Staying active and creative is not restlessness, it is ambition. And right now, with spring training barely underway and the stories already piling up faster than we can cover them, ambition is exactly what this team is radiating. We will be back very soon with more from the ground. Until then, thank you for being here, and thank you as always for making the Blue Jays Report worth showing up for.